Good morning. Let's have a look at drawing 1.2, the circle plate. So as you can see from the assignment in Canvas, we're going to be focusing on the circle command, the offset command. Also, we're going to introduce some of the concepts from Object Snap, and we're going to continue with the line creation methods that we looked at in drawing 1.1 and that we've talked about in earlier videos. So we'll use the offset command to locate the centers of the circles that we're drawing in this, and then we will use Object Snap to help us to find those centers accurately. All right, let's look at the drawing right now. So you can see the drawing here. Let me open this up a little bit bigger for you. So we have a rectangular shape, right? That's a 3 by 5 rectangle. And then we have 5 circles in the center or in the middle of the rectangle. We have one large circle that's a diameter of 1.5 and then 4 smaller circles that are all diameter of 0.5. So let's get started with this. Let me move these aside, and we'll go through the starting procedure again. You know, I know you've seen me go through this again, but this is just something that we want to make sure is clear. So we're going to start a drawing at this stage with Module 1 drawings. We want to start the drawing with the ACAD template. So I can click on here and go to acad.dwt. Let me just say also, and I talked about this before, other ways that you can start. We can go up to the application menu and go to new, okay? And then we can choose the ACAD template here. There's other methods. We can click on the plus up here. The downside of clicking on the plus is that it might not open, it might not start with the correct template. It starts with the last template that you used. So in my case, I'm not sure. I might have started it with another the previous drawing with another template. So I'm not going to use that method. We could also go up to the quick access toolbar. And if I hover over these icons, remember I can see them. Now I do want to stress, and I talked about this in another video, the difference between open and new. Okay, so if we're starting a drawing from scratch, we want to use new. All right. If we're opening an existing drawing, then we want to use open. Right. If I have already worked on a drawing and I need to finish it, or I need to add something or change something, then I want to use the open drawing. If the drawing already exists, then I want to open it. Now the problem can arise, or a problem can arise, if we mistake new and open. Okay, so if I want to start a new drawing, the circle plate drawing, but I am not paying attention or I'm confused or whatever, and I go to open, what's going to happen is it's going to, whoops, let me click on that. Then we go to open drawing, sorry. And it's going to take me into the select file folder, okay, which is where it should take me. But here's where some new users can get into problems. Okay, so it takes you here and you're looking and it's like, wow, you don't see the ACAD template. So you go down here to the files of type and you change this to a drawing template.dwt file, right? And then we go, hey, there's acad.dwt. I'm not going to click on this right now, because what happens is if I opened my template file or a template file, I'm going to be editing that template file, okay, which is not what we want to do. All right, so when we're starting a new drawing, we are not editing a template file. We are using the template as the starting page or drawing or whatever for the drawing that we're creating. All right, we're not editing the template. The template is remaining where it is, unedited, as we designed it. So this is not the way we want to start a drawing. All right. So again, let me reiterate. do not go to Open, Drawing, and then go and find the template. It will be doing the wrong thing, right? We want to go to New, and then we want to choose, in this case, a CAD template, all right? And we'll talk about different templates later, but let's go to ACAD, and then we go to Open, and there we are. All right, so now remember that we're kind of building on drawing 1.1, which we just introduced lines and how to draw lines and basic things like that, zooming and panning and that stuff. And now we want to draw this circle plate. It's going to start with a 3x5 rectangle. So let's go ahead and get that started. Now there is a rectangle command right up here, rectangle, and we could use that to draw the rectangle. All right. That's not how I would normally start this, and I'll tell you why, but we could do that. And what we want to do is pick a starting point. Let me end this and let's go back here. So to get this started, it says up on the screen, it says specify first corner point. All right. And remember, we don't care where we start the drawing. All right. So we're doing all relative movements or relative drawing. So we don't need to know absolutely where we are in relationship to the origin. So that's why where we start a drawing doesn't matter. And in fact, with the rectangle, which corner I start at also doesn't matter. If I start down here and stretch it up, so that was a click with the left mouse button, and now I'm going to specify the other corner point. Notice that it's giving me the in blue highlight at 16.5061, and then in the gray next to it is 11.6314. Those are the X and Y distances from my initial point that I specified. So if I need to draw a rectangle that is 5 in the X direction and 3 in the Y direction, right? That's the distances, 5 units in the X direction, 3 units in the Y direction. I would type in 5. And how do I move from the X entry space to the Y entry space right next to it? I use the Tab key, so I hit Tab, and then I'm going to type in 3. Okay, and we go like that. All right, forget about the fact that it's small right now. That's, we'll fix that in a second. So now the 3 and 5 numbers that I put in there were also dependent upon the direction that I wanted to draw. So for example, if I go back to rectangle and I click on this point and I want to draw it down, now I want to draw in the positive X direction, right? I'm going to the right, so I'm going to type in a 5. I'm going to hit Tab, but now I want to go in the negative Y direction. I want to go down from my initial point. So I'm going to type in -3, and then I'm going to hit Enter. Okay. So with the rectangle command, it's very, very simple. We pick a starting point and we drag it, and the only thing that we need to remember is that the positive or negative directions show you or tell you which way you're going to be drawing, which direction you're going to be drawing the rectangle. All right, now let's zoom in. So how do we zoom in on that? Well, remember we use the mouse wheel, and we just roll the mouse wheel, and then we can push down on the mouse wheel and pan over here. And I said that I normally would not start with the rectangle command, and why not? Well, if I click on the rectangle here, notice that it's all joined together. So a rectangle is there's other objects in AutoCAD that are like this. Polygons are like this. Some of the other features. All of the line objects are stuck together. So it's a single object. And the problem that occurs with that is that we can't treat the lines individually, all right, which is what we want to do in this drawing. Now, we could explode this. There's an explode command right there that is useful for breaking up objects that are joined like this, like the rectangle command, polylines, polygons. But we don't want to talk about the explode command right now. So we're going to start this the way that I want you to start this. So let me erase these first. Okay. By the way, I'm erasing it by just clicking on it with the mouse, left mouse button, and then I'm hitting the delete key. Okay. So that's all we're doing. It's kind of like erase, the erase command, which we'll talk about later. All right. So how would I normally get started on this? Well, or how do I want you to get started on it? I want you to get started using the line command, because that's the command that we're trying to reinforce here. So I'm going to choose the line command. And again, I'm going to start at some arbitrary point. This is good. And I want to draw over to the right. Okay. Now, when we were doing the square cow drawing 1.1, we talked about how you need to specify the distance that you want to draw and the angle, right? And so in this case, I want to go 5 to the right, so I'm going to type in a 5, and then I'm going to hit tab, and I want to go at an angle of 0 degrees. That's due east, right? If I hit tab again, it'll take me back to the 5, and you'll see, right? I didn't have to hit tab, but we went there. So that's the line that I want to draw. When I have everything entered that I want to, I can hit the enter key, right? And it moves on to the next line segment. If I don't want to draw anymore, I can hit the escape key, or I can hit enter, and it'll end the command. But I do want to continue this. Now, remember, there were some tools that helped us. When we were using the square cow, when we were drawing the square cow, there was a tool that helped us so that we didn't have to keep entering in the angle, right? So in this case, we're drawing 0 and 90 degrees and 180 degrees and 270 degrees. We're drawing what we call orthogonally, okay? So there's a couple of tools that we can turn on that are going to help us. And the one tool that we can turn on is the polar tracking. Okay, so I moved down to the status bar, right, and I'm hovering over the polar tracking. We talked about this in the previous video. I'm hovering over polar tracking, and I want to turn this on. Right now it's off. A couple things. Notice that I'm still in the line command, so we can turn on these status bar tools. We can turn them on and off while we're in a command. Okay, which is, I'm in the line command right now. So I'm going to turn this on. I can turn it on by just clicking on this, but the problem with turning it on like this is I'm not sure what the current setting is. So I'm going to hit the little triangle right here to see what the setting is. It's set at 30, 60, 90. That's fine. As long as 90 is in there, that's fine. So this one is good. This one is also good. Okay, so that's good to know. And now when I move it up, remember that, okay, so now when I move it up and I get it close to a 30, 60, 90 angle, it's going to snap in to that and kind of say, hey, if you need to draw at this angle, I've got it locked in for you. And now the only thing I need to do is I need to enter the distances. So this will just speed up and make your drawing more accurate, basically. 3. And I hit enter, and then I come around here, and I'm going to hit 5. I don't need to put -5 because I'm already pointing in that direction, right? If I go in this direction, then I will need to put -5 because I'll be moving in the negative direction from the way I'm pointing. All right, so I'm pointing this way, so I'm just going to hit 5. And then I can, if hopefully you remember, we can finish off a shape, a closed shape, by using the C option, close. So I'm going to type in C and hit enter, and then we close it and ends the command, and then I can zoom in like that. Okay, so that's one way. That's how I want you to draw, and that's probably how I would draw this if I needed to draw this. You know, it's it's probably faster than the rectangle command when you factor in the fact that you're going to have to explode the rectangle command in order to get access to the individual lines. Okay, so we have that in there. One other way that we can draw this, let me just move this to the side, right, is instead of the polar tracking, we can turn on the ortho mode. Now, ortho mode is kind of like a very special version of polar tracking. What I'm going to turn off polar tracking, and I'm going to turn on the ortho mode. What ortho mode is it is polar tracking, but at only 0 and 90 degree angles. So if I go back to the line command, let me move this to the side, and I pick my arbitrary point. Now I want you to see, now look, I can't draw, I can't even move the line at an angle. Right? It's only drawing at 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270. All right. So if you want to do super fast drawing where you're drawing lines that are always going to be horizontal and vertical, then ortho mode is what you want to turn on. And then I can just move it, type in 5, enter, move it up, 3, enter, move it over, 5, enter, and C to close. Okay. So 2 ways to draw a rectangle, actually 3 ways to draw a rectangle, including the rectangle command. Notice that each one of these line segments is a separate line. So what I'm doing is I'm clicking on the line with the left mouse button so that you can see that they're all individual lines as opposed to the rectangle where they're all stuck together and it's one object. All right. So a couple ways for you to get started. You can use either of those 2 methods, or heck, you could draw it twice and use the different methods. I'm going to erase this right now. You can ignore that because we haven't talked about erase yet, but let me just get going here. So how do we want to proceed from that? Well, let's pull in the circle drawing here. And so, once I get the frame, the 3x5, once you get the 3x5 rectangle, now we need to turn our attention to the stuff on the inside, and it's all circles. And circles are typically located by their center. I'm pointing at the center right there. Typically located by their centers. And they're drawn using either a radius or a diameter. Now, in this case, they're dimensioned with a diameter 0.5 and diameter 1.5. So it makes sense to use the diameter circle command. All right. So let's look at the circle command. All right. So we go up here to the circle command. Remember that there's kind of 2 areas of this button. There's the top area, which is, in this case, let me hover over it and get it to activate. Oops, it's not going to activate for me. There we go. So the top part of it is center radius, and the bottom half of it it says center radius, but it's really for expanding and getting the drop down list of the 5 other circle drawing methods. Okay. And in this case, it makes sense to use center diameter because I'm going to specify the center and I'm given the dimensions in diameter. Okay. So I'm going to use the center diameter. Let me just draw the center, one of the circles over here, and you can see what it's asking us for is to specify the center point for the circle. And if I bring this over here, you can see the center points of the circle are located by these dimensions right here. So we have, for the large center one, we have 1.5 from the bottom up and 2.5 from the left side over to the right. And that's going to mark out where we can find the center of the circle. Okay. Now, and you can see that over here, I don't have that located. And it's not valid that we can eyeball it. We don't want to go, it's right about there and click and draw like that. We don't want to do that because that's not how AutoCAD works and it's very inaccurate. So before we draw the circles here, we need to locate their centers. And to do that, we're going to use a new command called offset. And offset is in the modify panel, and I'm hovering over it right now. And offset basically is a copy command. It will make a copy of the object that we select, whether it's a line or a circle, and it will make parallel copies of that object. So parallel lines or concentric circles. Okay. So in this case, we're using lines. So let's offset to create the location for the center of that circle right in the middle, the diameter 1.5. So we're going to go up to the offset command, and I'm going to click with the left mouse button, and then let's just take a second here, especially when you're starting to draw, when you're learning AutoCAD. It really pays off to go slowly and to take stock, to look at what AutoCAD is presenting in front of your face on the screen. So I click the offset command, and the first thing it says is specify offset distance, and then it says or, and then it's kind of, it leaves that hanging there. All right, so let's try to understand what's going on here. All right, the first thing is it wants us to specify the offset distance. The offset distance is the distance that we want between, in this case, the parallel lines. All right, so in our case, I want to offset the bottom line up 1.5 units, and I want to offset the left line to the right 2.5 units. So my offset distance initially is going to be 1.5. All right, so I'm going to type in 1.5. Notice at no point did I move the cursor to any area to type in. You just type in the numbers and they go to the correct spot. In this case, they go to where it was highlighted blue, which was the area where the number showed up. So I type in 1.5 and I want to enter that, right? So just typing it in isn't good enough. I need to enter that. So I'm going to hit the enter key. And now it changes. AutoCAD changes and it says select object to offset. And the object I want to offset is this line down here. Now, again, let's go slow. As I move down here, AutoCAD is going to prompt me by highlighting that line. And you can see it kind of changes slightly. It looks like it almost gets fuzzy, right? So AutoCAD's saying, hey, you're hovering over this line. Is this the one that you want? If I move over here, it does the same thing. I move over here, okay? So AutoCAD is prompting us by saying, hey, it looks like you want to pick this line. Is that correct? And if I do, how do I pick an object? By using the left mouse button. So remember, the left mouse button is the pick. So I'm going to pick, and now look what it does, okay? It sets us up with that 1.5 unit offset, the distance that we wanted to offset. And what I'm doing, and again, let's pause, AutoCAD is prompting me for, or to specify the point on side to offset. Now that sentence can be a little bit tricky to understand. So what it wants me to do is to specify whether I want the parallel copy to be above the line that I selected or below the line. How do I indicate that? By picking above or below the line. That's it. Okay. Now notice it doesn't matter where I pick. I can pick up here as long as it's above the line or below the line. Right? Doesn't matter where. It just needs me to specify a point. And how do I specify a point? By picking. So I'm going to pick, and then there's my parallel copy right there. All right. Now, AutoCAD stays in the offset command. It continues to say select object to offset. And what it's holding on to that 1.5 unit offset distance. So if I have other things that I want to offset 1.5, I could click here, right? I could click here. I could click here and do it again down, right? I could continue to offset. Right? I don't want to do that, in fact. Right? I'm going to get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this, because I only want to offset 1.5, the bottom line up. So I have to end the command. Now I want to go back to the command because I want to change the offset distance. Okay, so I'm going to go back to offset, and now look, it's been seeded with the 1.5 offset. Right, now I want to change that to 2.5, so I'm going to type in 2.5 and hit enter, and it says select objects to offset, and I'm going to pick this line, click, and then which way do I want to indicate? I want to pick a point on the right side of that line. Right, and then I'm done, so I hit the enter key. Okay, so that is the offset command used in relationship to the circle plate. I've offset the bottom line up 1.5, and I've offset the line on the left hand side, offset it to the right 2.5, and this gives me the two lines intersect at the precise location for my diameter 1.5 hole. So, or excuse me, we don't know it's a hole yet. We assume it's a hole, but circle, right? So now we have to figure out, okay, how are we going to get the center of the circle right there? So let me zoom in a little bit here, and let's go to the center diameter. So I'm going to pick the center diameter, and AutoCAD's going to say specify the center point of the circle. And you might think, well, I'm just going to get the crosshair really, really close here. Right? And go like that. Oh, that looks good right there. No, we do not want to do that. All right? No matter how good this looks on the screen, it is not, in fact, exactly on the center. And this will cause a lot of problems later on. So how are we going to grab this intersection exactly, right, to 16 decimal places of accuracy, which is what AutoCAD allows us to draw with? All right, so how are we going to do that? We want to turn on another tool that's going to help us with our drawing, okay? And that tool is object snaps, okay? So object snaps are tools that help us grab specific geometric points when we're drawing or editing in AutoCAD. All right. Now I'm going to expand. This is the object snap button right here. I'm going to expand it first so that we can see what that is. And these are the geometric points that we can use when we're drawing. So we have endpoint, midpoint, center, geometric center, node, quadrant, intersection, extension, insertion, perpendicular, tangent, nearest, apparent intersection, and parallel. Okay. Some of these are useful. Some of them are not so useful, especially in what we're doing. There's some of these that are kind of specialized and that you use in certain situations, but not in others. And you can see the check mark is basically the ones that are on currently. So currently I have on endpoint, midpoint, center, intersection, and extension. Okay. What is this point right here? Well, that is an intersection, right? It's where two lines intersect. They don't stop right there. The lines continue across. So that is an intersection. So do I have intersection on? Let's see. Yes, I have intersection on. All right. So that means that tool is active right now. All right. So let me turn on. This is just the box here. Let me turn on object snaps, and we do that by clicking on that and turning it on. You can see it right there. And now I'm still in the circle command, right? Remember, we can turn on these things while we're in a command. And now watch what happens as I move across. Aha. Now I'm going to hover right about there. There we go. All right. And you can see if I hover, it will actually give me the tooltip for what that object snap is. Now that object snap is midpoint. right? Which is also valid for that because that point is the midpoint of the horizontal and the vertical lines. So actually intersection or midpoint would work in this case. So when I have that symbol on, in this case the green triangle, when I have that green triangle on, or any of the green symbols for Object Snap on, as soon as I click with the left mouse button, it's going to lock on to that point exactly. 16 decimal places of accuracy. Okay, so a lot of new users think that you have to continue to move the cursor down here, and that is not correct. As long as that symbol is showing, then as soon as I click with the left mouse button, it will connect to that point. So I'm going to click with the left mouse button, and you can see now that I have my circle. All right. So now I'm specifying the diameter, right? And in this case, the diameter is 1.5, so I can type in 1.5 and hit enter. And there we have our circle. Okay. Now I'm going to do a couple things here. Before I move on, I want just so that you can see clearly what's going on, I'm going to turn off Ortho Mode, and I'm going to go back to the polar tracking. In fact, we don't really need polar tracking on, but I just want to turn off the Ortho Mode so you can see more clearly what's going on. We'll leave Object Snaps on, okay? And let's look at the other 4 circles, okay? So we're going to use offset again for these other ones. So let's look at this drawing here. All right. So this circle is the center location is 1.5 units from the bottom corner to the right and 1.5 units up. Right. And then from here we go 4 units over, and this is in line, and this is in line. Right. And then from the bottom edge, actually from the middle edge here, from the middle midline here up to the center here is 1. And then over here, this circle is 1 unit across here and 1.25 units up from this center. Now this, before I move on with the offset command, this may seem like kind of like a weird way to draw. Why don't you just, draw a line from here to here and go up to that center? This is actually the way that I'm showing you with the offset command is the way you really want to draw. It's more analogous to drafting, manual or hand drafting, than any other method, and it's actually the best way that you want to draw in this case, in these kind of shapes, by using the offset command. It's the most accurate. It takes into account the dimensions that we're given on our drawing, and so it's also the fastest. So let's continue with that. So I'm going to go back to the offset command, offset right here, and it says specify offset. So I'm going to type in 0.5 and hit enter. And in this case, I can offset up. And since 0.5 is going to be this line offsetted to the right, I can use that same distance and pick like that. Okay. And in fact, I can come over here and go and offset this line to the left. Okay. And I'm going to hit enter to get out of the command. And here's a little tip: to go back to the previous command, just hit enter or the space bar again. Okay, so we hit space bar and it goes back to the offset command. So that's a quick way to go to end a command and to go back to the previous command is just hit the enter key or space bar. Okay. And it keeps the 1.5, so I'm going to type in 1 because I want to offset this line up, and I want to offset this line here, and enter 1.25 for my offset, and I want to offset this line up. All right. Now this looks like a mess, but you know, all the lines that we need are here. So this is going to be the center of the circle here, 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 and then over here. Okay. So I'm going to go to circle center diameter, and I'm going to move in right here. And look now, since there's no midpoint here, that's why the intersection comes up. And there we go. As soon as that symbol comes up, then I can click, right? So I don't have to physically go in there, although it's, you know, pretty hard not to go in there. We go in there and we click and we type in 0.5 for the 0.5 circle. All right. Now I'm going to show you a trick for quickly drawing circles. Remember what happened when what I just showed you when you end a command and then you hit enter or spacebar, it will go back to the previous command. Well, we can use that for the circle command. So I ended the circle command by specifying that diameter. I'm going to hit the space bar and it goes back to the circle command. Okay, so I can click right here. All right. Now there's a couple of things that happen here. So notice that AutoCAD does not strictly go back to exactly the same circle command that I use, because I use center diameter and it actually is it went back to center radius. That's what AutoCAD does in this case. There's not a way to fix that. That's what AutoCAD does, but it's not really a big deal as long as you're aware of it. But also, if I at this point, if I want to draw a circle with the same diameter as the previous one, I can also hit the enter key. Okay, so I hit enter and it will put in the 0.5 again. So let me show you. Spacebar, pick spacebar. Okay, remember enter and spacebar are the same thing. So spacebar takes me back to the circle command. Pick the point. Spacebar enters the previous diameter or radius. Okay. In our case, it knows the difference between what I entered initially was a diameter of 0.5 and what needs to be put there with a radius, which is a radius of 0.25. So it understands that. And so we're done. Okay. So we're done. Now, how are we going to clean this up? Well, we're going to use the erase command. I'm going to introduce the erase command here so that we can talk about different ways that we can erase things. I'm going to show you kind of a couple of different ways to erase the object here. And then in the next video, I'll expand on the erase command. So I don't want to get into too much detail right now. Because I'll do some examples with this. But so all these construction lines that we have here, the quickest and easiest way to do it is to use the delete key, honestly. And we can do that. Now watch how I do this. I'm going to click and go through like this. And we'll talk about this in the next video. But notice that I'm dragging it. So let me go back over here. If I click and drag to the left, I get this green rectangle with a broken perimeter, broken line box around it. Okay, that's called a crossing window. Okay, so that means that it's going to select everything that it crosses, which in this case are the 1, 2, 3, 4 lines that I want to select. So I'm going to click over there and it selects those 4 lines. I can see that because they're highlighted blue. And then I can hit the enter key, or excuse me, the delete key to delete those. All right. Let me do that again. Let me undo. Enter. We'll undo that. And let me show you now. If I remember, clicking and dragging to the left gets us the green window. If I click and drag to the right, oh, look at that. It's a blue rectangle. And notice the edge isn't broken. So what's the difference between this and this. Well, let's take a second and pay attention to what we're seeing here. If I drag it to the left, notice that those 4 lines highlight, right? So it's picking those 4 lines. It's selecting those. It's saying, hey, I see those 4 and I'm grabbing those for you. If I drag it to the right, they're not highlighted. The blue box or the blue window is just a regular window. So it will only select things that are entirely within the window. So those 4 lines, those 4 horizontal lines, are not entirely within that window, that blue window. And so they're not selected. Watch. As I drag this over the circle down here, look at that. Now the circle is selected. Why? Well, because the circle is entirely within the window. So that's why we want, in this case, what I'm showing you, we want to drag to the left. Pick a point and drag to the left. All right. Pick a point and drag to the left. Doesn't matter whether we drag up or down, as long as we drag it to the left. Okay. Now you'll notice that I'm not actually, there's no command that I selected. Okay. I'm not selecting a command, right? There's no command that I'm working on. I just hit escape a couple times. There's no command that I'm working on right here. The command line says type a command. So I'm just picking objects like so. And AutoCAD is kind of, it's highlighting what I selected, and it's waiting for me to tell it what to do with those. Okay. So in this case, I want to hit the delete key. Delete. And let's do that up here. So I select those again, dragging to the left. I select those, and I hit the delete key. All right. Now that's the quickest way that I can show you to erase these lines. All right. And it's the quickest way you'll find in AutoCAD to erase construction lines or any other type of lines where you just want to get in there and wipe them out, wipe them off the drawing. Okay. For more detailed erasing and stuff, there's of course the erase command, which is right up here, which we're going to talk about in the next video. Okay. But that's the circle plate command, the circle plate drawing. All right. Now let me just draw this again for you, just a little bit faster, so that you can see how this works. Because sometimes, drawing it slowly, where I'm talking about all the commands and everything, you might lose kind of the sense of the flow of things. So let me just show you a little bit more clearly. I have my polar tracking on, and I have my object snap on. So we're going to go to the line command, and I'm going to pick this point and go down 3, enter, 5, enter, 3, enter, C for close, and then I go to the offset command, and I'm going to type in 1.5. I'm going to offset this up, and 2.5. Those clicks are me hitting the space bar, right? And we do that, and then while I'm here, I'm just going to let's go to the circle command. We choose circle center diameter. We go in here and we type in 1.5, and then I can go back to the offset command, offset, and we type in 0.5, and we go up and over here, and we go over here, spacebar to end the command, spacebar to bring it back, 1, this line up, this line over, spacebar to end the command, spacebar 1.25, and this line up. Now, let me just pause here for a second. You might be wondering, why am I using the spacebar all the time? The spacebar and the enter key are the same, but why am I ignoring the enter key? It's a very simple reason. The spacebar is bigger than the enter key. The enter key is kind of buried in between a lot of other keys on the right hand side of the keyboard. The space bar is down at the bottom. All right. So I typically use the spacebar a lot instead of the enter key because I can hit it with my thumb, basically, and it's, I don't have to be super accurate. With the enter key, you can mishit it real easily, and then you enter in all kinds of weird things. So, so that's kind of why I'm using the spacebar. All right, little tip. Now let's go back to the circle command. We pick this point, and we go 0.5, enter, and then we go spacebar, pick spacebar, spacebar, pick spacebar, spacebar, pick spacebar, and then we go and we select these lines right here. I'll do them all together and hit the delete key, and then there we go. All right. So so that's the circle plate. A couple different ways to look at it with the offset command and with the rectangle, introducing the rectangle. The next video that I'm going to show you is going to be looking at the erase command because there's a lot going on there. I'll probably talk a little bit more about the offset command as well. Please make sure that you look at the CAD learning video links that I've put in each one of the assignments that pertain to the specific topics that we're looking at with the assignments. Those are excellent for going and showing you how the commands work and all the different details for that. Those really, don't miss those. Those will help you set up so that you can draw these effectively. All right. So the last thing we want to do here, actually, I don't want you to turn in two drawings, so I'm going to erase one of these. So we'll just go like that. The last thing I want to do is I want to, again, reiterate how we save this or plot this to a PDF file, and then we can go ahead and submit it. All right, so we're done with this. We're ready to go. Hopefully you've already saved it. I haven't saved it, so my error, I'm going to save it right now. Save, and make sure that we save it in the right location. You guys know where you're saving things, but we'll do this, and I'll call it circle plate 1, 2. So we'll go right there. All right, and that thing comes up again, so we can get rid of that. All right, and we've saved it. Now we're ready to plot it to a PDF. So we go up here to the application menu, and we can go to print. Alternately, we can go up to the quick access toolbar and go to plot. Okay, and here, remember in the demo, in the video for this, we want to first choose our printer. And we're going to choose the AutoCAD PDF high quality print. All right. Then we want to set this up on an ANSI A 8.5 by 11 inch paper. That's fine. What to plot? Display? No. We want to plot extents. That means we want to fit everything that we've drawn on the page. We want to center the plot and fit the paper, which is already checked. And before we say OK, we want to preview it, make sure that we didn't mess anything up. Yeah, that looks exactly like we want it to. So I can hit the escape key, I can hit the right mouse button and go to exit, or I can click on the X up here. I'll go to exit, and it takes us back to the plot model dialog box, and we're all good. So we just say OK. And then it's going to prompt us for where we want to save that file, which you need to remember where this goes to. So so I'm going to go to there we go. I think I saved this to the desktop. Yeah, and I'm going to go to save because that's the file that you want to get. Okay. So what happens is it opens up that file, and this is probably going to happen with you, but I can't guarantee it. It kind of depends on the settings that you have with Adobe Acrobat. But this is the PDF plot file that I just created, right? So you can see it, and that's what you want to submit on Canvas. So I'm going to close this down because I can't submit it if it's open, right? So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to bring this over right here. And so I'm done. And it says resubmit assignment because I've already submitted it, but I'm going to go to resubmit assignment, and then I'm going to choose this file, and I need to remember where it went, and I think I send it to the desktop, and there it is right there. So I'm going to say open, Oops, I'm sorry. I don't want to do the drawing file. Don't do the drawing file. I want to do the PDF file. Yes. Actually, if you do the drawing file, let me show you. If you do the drawing file, it gives you an error because I'm not going to allow you to submit drawing files. So you do open, you go like this, and it says, hey, this file type is not allowed. Acceptable file types are PDF. And you go, okay. So you go back to choose file, pick that PDF, say open. There we go. And you can add in any comments. I think I did really good on this drawing, and then submit assignment. Okay. It says submit failed. That's because I've already submitted it, but hopefully yours won't say submit failed. It'll say submit successful. Okay. Now, is there any? Oh, and the last thing that you want to do here is we can check on that, mark as done, and then we go like that. Okay. So I'm going to finish the video right now. The next video that I'm going to go through is not going to be an assignment. It's going to just look at the erase command. I'll also talk a little bit about the offset command. But depending on how comfortable you are with the circle plate, you might want to watch that video with the erase command and the offset command before or after. Okay, so I'll leave that up to you how you decide your comfort level with drawing that. Okay, so until next time, goodbye.